When my brother Jake walked out again, leaving me with his 4 kids and his mountain of debt, when I tried to complain my parents sided with him, it wasn't the first time. But something inside me snapped. The anger, the frustration, the exhaustion, they all mixed together into a feeling I couldn't ignore anymore. I wasn't just angry at him. I was angry at myself for letting this happen. But the real sting? It was the betrayal. It felt like every single time Jake made a mistake, I was there to clean it up, no one else. And I always did it, quietly, without complaint. But this time, I couldn't do it anymore. I just have to teach him the lesson of his life. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name's Jessica Hayes, and in my family, I'm the one who always holds things together. I'm the fixer, the one who gets things done. I didn't choose this role, but somehow it's the one I've been stuck with. My brother Jake? He's the one who gets to disappear. He's always off with his new girlfriend, chasing after the next big thing. He leaves his responsibilities behind, and who picks them up? Me? Always me. I can't remember the last time I had a moment to breathe. It was a typical evening. Bills piled up on the coffee table, toys scattered across the floor as I tried to keep the kids from breaking anything. I was on the phone with the electric company, trying to figure out how to pay the bill Jake had forgotten. Again. The kids were running around in the background, fighting over the same toy for what felt like the 100th time. I barely heard them anymore. I'd become so used to the chaos that it didn't even register unless someone was crying. The refrigerator was empty. Of course it was. Jake had been gone for over a week, and I had barely enough money to buy a loaf of bread. And yet, there I was, standing in front of it, as if I could make food into existence. The thought crossed my mind, what if I just stopped? What if I didn't fix this? The question caught me off guard. I had never really thought about it before. Sure, I had complained in my head, but actually doing something about it? That thought hadn't crossed my mind. But now, standing in my kitchen, staring at the empty fridge, something inside me shifted. I couldn't keep doing this. My parents are never helping. They all feels it normal to keep being his nanny and still serves the house. The phone rang. Pulling me from my thoughts, it was Mum. "Jess," she said, her voice flat. "How's it going with the kids?" I didn't even have the energy to respond with my usual calm, reassuring tone. "Same as always," I said, my voice more tired than I wanted it to be. "We're managing." "Well, you need to be more useful," she said, as if it was that simple. "It's not like Jake's coming back anytime soon. You're the only one who can help them." My stomach twisted. Mum's indifference never failed to hit me hard. She acted like I was the problem, like I was the one causing the chaos. But I was the one who was always there, cleaning up the messes no one else cared about, always the one who fixed things when no one else would. I wanted to scream at her, tell her that I was done, that I couldn't keep doing it anymore, but instead, I said nothing. "Okay. I'll make sure the kids are taken care of," I mumbled, swallowing the frustration that threatened to spill out. "And don't forget to keep things running at home, Jess," she added. "You don't want your life to go to waste. Support your brother. He's at least out there trying to enjoy his life, and it's normal for a man." Her words stung. Of course, Jake was out there enjoying himself, while I was stuck here, running myself ragged, trying to keep everything from falling apart. My father's voice echoed in my mind. "You need to pull your weight in this world, Jess. No more of this good-for-nothing life." I hadn't even realized I'd been crying until I wiped my eyes. The weight of it all was too much, but I couldn't afford to break down. Not now, not when everything was already on my shoulders. I glanced over at the kids, who were now quietly watching TV, their faces blank. The life I had built for myself, if you could call it that, was a joke. I was living a life of sacrifice, and for what? For who? I didn't even realize it, but I was making excuses for Jake again. This is just how he is, I thought to myself. He can't help it, he's always been this way. That was my mistake. I kept making excuses for him, kept telling myself that one day he'd change, that one day he'd come back and fix everything. But he never did. I let out a long, shaky breath. I didn't even have the energy to cook dinner, but I knew I had to, for the innocent kids. I had to keep everything together. After all, that's what I always did. But deep down, something had shifted. I was angry, so angry at the way I'd been treated, at how easily my family leaned on me without so much as a thank you. I was tired of being the one everyone turned to when they needed something. I was tired of being overlooked, of being the person no one even seemed to see until they needed me to fix their mess. The thought that I could just stop, that I could walk away from all of this, lingered in my mind. What would happen if I didn't pick up the pieces? What if, for once, I didn't play the role everyone expected of me? Jake's voicemail popped up on my phone, breaking the silence. His voice was as carefree as ever, like he didn't have a care in the world. "Hey, can you handle the kids for a couple more days? The fun here, I can't have enough of it." That's when it hit me. I had been handling things for him for years, and he hadn't even bothered to call and ask if I was okay. I stared at the phone for a long time, that simple message hanging in the air. I had been the one to fix everything, but what if I stopped? What if this time I let him handle it all himself? For the first time in a long time, I felt a shift. I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep being the one who always fixed everything. Something had to change. And maybe, just maybe, I was going to be the one to make that change. I never thought it would come to this. I always told myself I could handle it, that this was just another chapter in the endless saga of taking care of everyone else while they lived their lives. But sitting at my kitchen table that night, staring at Jake's credit card statement, I finally snapped. The total was over $10,000. And that was just the latest bill. He spent recklessly on his numerous women and leaves his kids all to me. I sat there, dumbfounded, as my mind raced. How had I let it get this far? How had I let him walk away, leaving me to pick up every single piece of his mess? Again. I thought back to everything I had done for him, everything I had sacrificed. I had stopped asking for anything in return long ago. But seeing that number, that glaring reminder of how little he cared, it hurt more than I had imagined. Jake, my brother, the golden child, always the one who could do no wrong, always the one who everyone made excuses for, always the one who was allowed to fail, and somehow I was expected to fix it. But enough was enough. I remembered the last time this had happened. It was only a few months ago when I had to bail him out of another mess. Another woman. Another broken promise. I remember when I quit school to take care of him after he lost his job. He couldn't handle the pressure, so I stepped in, thinking it would be temporary. I had always been the one to sacrifice, but when I needed something, when I needed support, I was alone. He disappeared as he always did, and I was left to hold everything together, and my parents supported this every step of the way. I remember paying the lawyer's fees for him, the lawyer I paid because he couldn't afford it. That was the last time I let him talk me into taking care of his problems. But this time, this was different. This wasn't just money. This was everything, my time, my energy, my life, spent cleaning up after him while he chased after a life that didn't even consider me. I couldn't keep doing this. I closed my eyes for a second, rubbing my temples, the weight of the moment hitting me like a physical blow. I couldn't even remember the last time I had taken a breath for myself. It was always about Jake, always about keeping the family together while he did whatever he pleased. I had let it happen because I told myself I was doing the right thing. I told myself that eventually he'd grow up, but he never did. I reached for my phone and dialed Emily's number. Emily had been my best friend for years, the one person who saw through all my excuses, who wasn't afraid to tell me when I was being a doormat. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, Jess, what's going on?" she asked. "I'm done," I said, the words coming out before I even realized I'd said them. "I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being the one who sacrifices everything while Jake gets to have it all." Emily was silent for a moment, as if waiting for me to continue. When I didn't, she spoke, her voice gentle but firm. "When do you stop being the savior, Jess? When do you stop living for everyone else and start living for yourself?" Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I had always been the fixer, the one who patched everything up, the one who put everyone's needs ahead of my own. I had convinced myself that it was what I was supposed to do, but now, with the weight of Jake's debt staring me in the face, I realized I had no more room to give. "I don't know," I admitted, my voice cracking, "but I'm done being the family ATM. I'm done being the one who cleans up his mess." "I'm proud of you," Emily said softly. "But don't let him make you feel guilty for finally putting yourself first." Her words were the final push I needed. I couldn't keep excusing Jake's behavior. He wasn't a child anymore. He was a grown man who had decided that my life, my time, my resources were all at his disposal just because he is the golden child of the family. But I had given enough. I sat there for a while longer, staring at the credit card statement. The numbers felt like a slap in the face. I didn't know how to fix this, but then it hit me. Jake had left me the tools to fix this. I remembered something that had been sitting under my nose the entire time. The business credit card, the one that Jake had used for his latest business venture he was so proud of. The card that he never paid attention to, the one that he moves money from to his personal account just to go on dates with women as he pleases. I grinned to myself, a cold, determined smile. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, after the kids had gone to school, I sat down and pulled up Jake's account. His business card, one that I had access to, was still linked to his personal expenses. I knew the amount of money he had already spent, but what he didn't know was that he had already reached the limit. He had no clue that I had been watching every penny, every charge. I knew the only thing that was keeping him afloat were the bills he kept shifting onto me, the money he never paid back. I wasn't going to let him do it again. I made a mental list of what I could do, a small smile playing on my lips as I jotted down the essentials. The kids needed new clothes. School fees were overdue, and then there were the medical checkups, the things Jake had ignored for months. His mess wasn't just financial, it was everything. I added a few more things to the list, just for good measure. As the list grew, I felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control. I spent the next few hours making calls, arranging appointments, securing the things that needed to be done. I used Jake's own money to buy what his kids needed. I used his own neglect against him. And it felt good. I was no longer the one who had to pick up after him. I wasn't just doing this for him or the family. I was doing this for me. The last thing I did was call the lawyer Jake had used before. I arranged for a meeting, set up a few things that I knew would tie his hands. I explained the situation to him and showed him all evidence of all the steps I took, and I inquired about the legal standing I have in the whole thing. By the time I was done, I felt a sense of cold satisfaction. Jake was going to learn what it meant to have no safety net. He was going to learn that I wasn't going to be there to catch him anymore. I hadn't just learned how to fix his problems. I had learned how to make him face the consequences. And that thought, more than anything, was the one that made me smile. I wasn't his savior anymore. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care. I could feel the tension in the air as I walked through the door that morning. It was like everything around me had been building to this moment. For the first time, I felt like I was in control. Jake had no idea what was coming. In fact, I don't think he ever considered that the person he always treated like a backup, someone to clean up his messes, could ever be the one to turn the tables on him, but I was done being that person. I was done being the one who always came to the rescue, who always played the role of the martyr and overlooked sister. Now, it was my turn to take control. For once, I wasn't in the background. I wasn't the one cleaning up his mistakes. No, this time, I was the one who'd orchestrated everything. As the day went on, I watched as Jake's ignorance played out. I was ready for the confrontation, but I didn't even know how satisfying it would be to see him squirm. Later that afternoon, I got a message from him. He was demanding an explanation for the charges on his business card. I could feel the smirk tugging at the corner of my mouth. He had no idea. When he finally showed up at my door, furious and with that entitled swagger he always carried, I didn't flinch. I knew this moment was inevitable, but I wasn't about to back down. "Jessica!" he yelled. "What the hell did you do? Why did you charge everything to my card? Do you have any idea how much this is? You think you can just use my stuff without asking?" I looked at him, his face red with anger, his eyes wild. But all I felt was calm. All I felt was the satisfaction of knowing that he was finally going to see the consequences of his actions. His boldness and silliness amaze me, or maybe it's just the entitlement. I know that money was for one of his potential business deals, but it still feels good using it. The kids were happy. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I did what needed to be done, I said, my tone cool, measured. "You've made a habit of leaving me to pick up your mess, Jake. I'm done with it." He stepped closer, his hands raised, ready to accuse me of something. Anything that would allow him to feel like he still had control, but he wasn't in charge anymore. I was. "I've been taking care of your kids, your debts, your responsibilities for years, and I'm done. No more. If you want out of this, you'll have to figure it out yourself." I could see the shift in his eyes. At first, confusion, then frustration, then, dare I say it, fear. I knew it was hard for him to comprehend, but this was the world he'd built. His recklessness, his selfishness, it was all coming back to him. He didn't say anything at first, his mouth moving, but nothing came out. He was still trying to process the fact that I wasn't the Jessica he could control. That I wasn't going to be the one to clean up after him anymore. I stood tall, watching as the reality of the situation sank in. I had done this. I had taken control, and now he had to face it. The man who had treated me like nothing more than a tool for his own convenience, who had walked all over me for years, was now at my mercy. I could feel the power shift between us, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like I was the one holding the cards, but the real moment came when I decided to take it a step further. I knew Jake had been bragging about his big construction project, the one that he thought would secure his future. Maybe that was why he has been spending recklessly. He thought he was untouchable. He thought everything was just going to fall into place. But it didn't. When Jake arrived at the construction office, expecting to be handed an opportunity that would save him, he was met with something else entirely. I was at the seat that would grant him the deal. I sat in the CEO chair, the one he'd always mocked me for not being able to reach. It was ironic, really. For so long, he'd been the one to laugh at me, to dismiss me. But there I was, the one pulling the strings, the one controlling his fate. When he walked in and saw me sitting there, his face drained of color. He froze. I could see the shock, the disbelief in his eyes as he looked at me. His mouth moved, but no words came out, and then he dropped to his knees. It was the first time I had ever seen him so completely powerless. I watched as the man who had always seen me as less than him, the man who had used and discarded me time and time again, kneel before me. Knowing there was no escaping what I had set in motion, I dismissed his session without thinking twice. His calls flooded my phone. Mum, Dad, everyone who had always supported him, who had always made excuses for his behavior, were now calling me, apologizing, begging for forgiveness. The tables had turned, and for the first time, I didn't need anyone's approval. I didn't need their validation. I had built something for myself, something they could never take away, and it was only just beginning. I had seen their true colors when they thought they had power, so all the apologies now mean nothing. Thanks for listening to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.